Sometimes you're just in the mood for something gloriously stupid that turns out to be quite mad as well. And that is what I was lucky enough to watch tonight on Linoleum Knife, a podcast I listened to. Alonso Duralde and David White, Dave White, talked about this Irish movie. They've talked about it several times, starring Jamie Dornan and Emily Blunt and Christopher Walken, and how fucking batshit it is, but yet so strangely charming at the same time. You know you were in for something when it opens with sweeping Emerald Isle vistas, tourism board vistas of Ireland, and the narrator comes on. The narrator, who is Christopher Walken, doing, even to my uneducated ear, my uneducated Canadian ear, doing the most fucking horrible Irish accent. But that's not really the mad part of the movie. The mad part of the movie is that little kid Emily Blunt is pining for little kid Jamie Dornan, who you see kind of doing a little kid thing, kind of running around with his arms spread, and then going over to a flower and sticking his nose in a flower and getting pollen on his nose, and him getting made fun of by this other girl, and there's some kind of trouble, and Jamie, young Jamie Dornan kid has pushed over young Emily Blunt kid, and now she's sitting at her table and despondent, and there's too many, there's no girls in the world, and there's there's nothing, no place for us in the world. This is my horrible English, my horrible Irish accent, just things, and they grow up to be Jamie Dornan and fucking Emily Blunt, two gorgeous, God bless them, kissed, angel kissed personages who are both, also have such great chemistry and verve. And apparently Emily Blunt's Irish accent is horrible, but I can't actually tell that, so that doesn't ruin it for me. But they can't get together, and Christopher Walken won't pass the land on to his son Jamie Dornan, which he says he starts making up something about him being not actually his kid, but it's actually because he won't. He's not the Marian type. He won't get married, and there'll be the extinction of the farm, and then we'll lose the farm will be lost, and things like that. And why won't you get married? And they, Emily, and you spend most of this fucking movie going, why the fuck aren't they getting together? They are completely hot for each other. They have gigantic chemistry. Jamie Dornan is playing this kind of bizarre, kind of oddball who's walking around with a metal detector half the time because he seems to be grossly shy at points, and is talking to himself, and yes, he wants to propose to Emily Blunt's character, and he gets caught practicing his proposal on a donkey, and now all the neighborhood thinks he wants to marry a donkey, and and it's just that they break into these kind of weird, kind of poetic cliches, which is all just buoyed by the amazing charm of Jamie Dornan and the amazing charm of Emily Blunt. And Christopher Walken, who does a fucking horrible accent. The one great bit of acting that he does is that his wife, Jamie Dornan's mother, dies, and Emily Blunt sings the song that she always sang "Into the Dirt," as she says, at kind of the Irish wake, and she sings it, and of course it is Wld Mntn Thym. Won't you go, lassie, go? That song, and the camera just sits on Christopher Walken while he just acts the fuck out of it. you could just see the sadness and the mourning and the loss. And it's, significant. It's something where he does not open his mouth and he doesn't inflict that horrible fucking accent on us, which completely distracts from most of his other scenes. But yeah, he earns it. He semi redeems himself there. Okay, now let's just go into spoilers because you do spend the entire and there's a whole subplot with John Hamm. Is she going to go off with John Hamm and she goes to New York to see Black Swan because she's obsessed with the ballet, and he kisses her and she goes back and he's like, oh my god, and he's going to come there and maybe he's going to marry her, and she and Jamie Dornan aren't going to get together. But there's all that side plot. But it's like, why the fuck haven't they gotten together? What's prevented Jamie Dornan? Because apparently it has to be Jamie Dornan to do the Askin. Why haven't they gotten together? So spoilers for all the hundreds of thousands of people hanging off of my every word on this review. When it comes down to it, the reason why that he has not asked her, because he doesn't think he is right for this world, that he is something, he's just this terrible secret, is because he thinks he's a bee. Because that opening scene where he was sticking his fucking nose in that flower was him being a bee, and that's what he thinks he is. He thinks he's a bee. And that was his big secret. And he thinks she's the most beautiful flower in the world. And it rains, and he hasn't been able to find the ring, and that's why he's been going around with the metal detector all this time. And she's like, here's your ring, I had it the whole time. And the rains, and they kiss, and she carries her up to the top of the mountain, and the sunshine comes out, and and then we intercut with scenes of Jamie Dornan going up at the celebration, I guess, of their wedding, and singing Wld Mntn Thym, and her joining, and then it's the whole cast, because you have people who are all dead, and Walken, who has died, and her mother, and her father. They're all there now, and also a one night stand for Jamie Dornan in the background, which is why it's even more of a cast reuniting versus all the dead coming back to kind of gather together all the ancestors, which would have made more sense with a earlier thing. But it's just like, glorious. It's fucking glorious. This was roundly panned by critics, and people in Ireland were gratefully upset of the fucking apparently horrible accents of Walken and Blunt. I wouldn't know about the Blunt one, but the Walken one, yeah, it's national shame. He probably isn't allowed to go back to Ireland. But wow, I was just totally in the mood for that. That is just the most fucking glorious piece of Irish cheese that I have had in a long time. And this is the guy who wrote Moonstruck, which is like, well, I could see Nicolas Cage being somebody who believed he was a bee and really getting into it. And Jamie Dornan just does a wonderful kind of oddball, eccentric, charming, but he didn't take his shirt off, which seems like a very kind of wrong thing for this movie. His shirt should have come off at some point. He was soaking wet a lot of the time, though. I guess that's to get the clingy thing. So that was just my enthusiastic, what a terribly wonderful movie. I'm gonna probably watch it 1,000 more times. All right, more videos later.